Hello and welcome to Under the Silence. My name is Bianca Moeschinger, and today we're stepping into something deeply grounded and beautifully symbolic: the feet. In this episode, Facing Yourself Through the Feet, I invite you to explore how your feet reveal where you stand in relation to your safety, security, self-support, and your connection to your soul. We'll take a psychosomatic journey into the subtle yet powerful language of the body, focusing on the foundational intelligence of our feet. And I'll be sharing personal stories, therapeutic reflections, and practical insights along the way. This podcast is following on from Tracing the Soul One Step at a Time. This reflection invites you to explore what it truly means to face yourself through the feedback of your feet. The reason I'm doing this second podcast is because our current students in the Psychosomatics and Emotional Anatomy training course are spending these last 2 weeks reading their feet and understanding how their safety, support, and security is all underpinned by their feet. So they're starting to understand themselves. And while they're understanding themselves, I also have been focusing on my own feet and my own psychosomatic insights. So this podcast is in relation to that. So let's begin. So facing yourself through your feet may be one of the most confronting and revealing places to begin your personal development journey. The feet show us where we stand in relation to our safety, security, and self-support. They reveal how well our foundations hold us or where they don't. Psychosomatically, the feet are not just shaped by conscious intention. They are shaped in response to the body's emotional, psychological, and environmental feedback. They respond and reshape based on the emotional, mental, and energetic signals sent from the rest of your system. And here's something to remember. Our bones are good. The very fact that we are living, breathing human beings means our structure is intact. Our bones are strong. Our genetics, despite whatever challenges we've endured, have sustained our ability to stand, move, and live. When we speak of bones, we're also speaking of the bones of our existence. The essential, reliable framework that upholds who we are at the deepest level. They are the silent structure beneath our stories. The bones provide a scaffolding, a stable foundation upon which the rest of our physical, emotional, and spiritual life is built. They do not restrict us, rather they give us the potential for movement, expression, and evolution. It is the tissue layered upon them, the muscles, fascia, and skin, that records our emotional history. The tissue is shaped by our conditioning, our responses, and our stories. It adapts and forms according to how we have needed to survive and interact with life. And it's the conditioning, not the bones themselves, that can limit movement, dampen sensation, and reroute the natural flow of energy through obscure or protective pathways. The bones remain steady. It's the patterning around them that moves, distorts, and eventually, with awareness, can be reshaped. Imprints and pathways, the feet as emotional cartographers. So I've recently learned this word, a cartographer. And I found out that a cartographer is someone who draws or creates maps, a map maker. And here we're using this term metaphorically. So feet act as emotional cartographers, mapping the terrain of our lived experience into the body. What influences our level of ability and capacity for movement and connection is not the bone itself, but the fascia, muscle, and skin that have been conditioned by our life experience. The outer tissue forms patterns based on past reflections: fight, flight, freeze, appease, or fawn. It either moves in connection and presence or tightens in response to fear, anticipation, or past trauma. The nervous system, through its responsiveness, reveals whether we are in social engagement and self-awareness or still caught in a protective reflex. As our students spend time reading their own and others' feet in the language of the feet module, I thought I would share a personal insight. My focus has also been on my feet, and what has emerged through their feedback has offered valuable psychosomatic awareness that I thought might bring awareness to you. Expression and protection, the body's energetic language. What I've noticed is that my right leg feels more dominant and more connected. There is a certainty in how it leads me through life. But with that certainty can come dominance. That leg often takes the lead, which means it also reinforces a particular direction, much like a parental figure might reinforce a child with praise, reward, or favor. Remembering that if my right leg is more dominant and has more dominance, then that then affects the left side of my brain, which is the more dominant. The left leg, by contrast, feels less connected, less engaged. It has to fight to be seen and felt, and so, over time, it has learned to retreat, to just follow, to take it on the chin, which means my right side of my brain. Energetically, this plays out in my body as an imbalance. More flow to the right, less to the left. More conscious awareness to the left side of my brain and less conscious awareness to the right, or more reactionary responses in the right side of my brain and more responses in the left side of my brain. So the right leg becomes the driver, the doer, the protector. The left recedes into lack, into fight, into being invalidated. And this physical story begins to feed a subconscious mental story, one that I then act out in the external world as projection, blame, daddy issues, insecurities, invalidation, and so on and so on. And we all know those stories that hide under the layers. So while there may be truth in the history of that narrative, the deeper truth is that I'm still reinforcing it by how I hold and move my body. So I'm still playing it at that micro level. The good news is that this can change, but it can only change when I become aware of it and then when I act upon that awareness. So making the shift, awareness, adjustment, and repatterning. Once I became aware of the pattern, I then consciously slowed the dominance of the right leg, which means I took the reinforcement away from it and the attention away from it. So I didn't rely upon it as much. I invited my left leg to lead. So it's like changing a group of friends that you hang out with. You go towards the less favorite so that you can learn something from them. I adjusted the placement of my feet, paying attention to the inner and outer edges, the front and back, the full connection. I began to tune into the center of the foot, the solar plexus point, and how it communicates with the upper and lower parts of my body. And everything started to shift. My feedback changed, not just in my body, but also externally. So when my feedback changed, because I changed my physical body, how I felt my body emotionally changed, and mentally I started to listen to not my preconceived ideas of the world, but I started to listen to other dialogue within myself and also externally of myself. So my inner dialogue changed. My felt experience of the world began to soften and rebalance. So to my students and anyone curious about their body's deeper truth, I invite you to do the same. As you explore your feet through a physical, emotional, and mental lens, begin to change the way you relate to them. Start with how you experience your feet, and then notice how you stand, how you pivot, how you walk, how you hold your ground, how you take a step forward, or how you put your toe in the water or into a discussion. And let your posture speak. And if you notice one side is more dominant than the other, mix it up a bit and see how that changes your environment and what's happening. Allow the insights to rise, step by step, toe by toe, feeling by feeling. And remember, the right side of the body relates to the masculine action, intellect, doing, and the left side connects to the feminine feeling, sensing, nurturing, and subtle awareness. Now, previously in this podcast, I related to the brain as the left brain works with the right side of the body and the right brain works with the left side of the body. This is true. Just so that you can land that and you're not hooked in with the left and right differences. So usually when one side dominates, the other often disappears or becomes disconnected. But when we invite them both to speak or to connect, we move into balance. Balance comes from our ears. It's when our ears are listening to the subtleties of the left, and then perhaps for me, the really strong information from the right. And from that balance, we walk forward not just with structure, but with soul. Because when we're balanced, our soul then has a place to be heard. In relationship, how foot posture reflects emotional dynamics. So our relational dynamics often reflect and are reflected by our feet. In my own partnership, I've observed this in deeply revealing ways. My feet point straight ahead. I know where I'm going. I can be direct, focused, or even forceful when I need to be. My feet are firmly under me and I move with intention. At times, this directness means I might step on others' toes, not out of disregard, but out of certainty and forward motion. As I mentioned in my previous blog, my partner's feet in contrast turn outward almost 45 degrees. His heels are grounded, but the forefoot, the part that acts, moves outward into the world, often unconsciously. He leads with the parts of himself that are shaped by external influence. In his movement, he doesn't always realize that he steps into another space, including mine, because so much of his attention is focused externally. As a provider and supporter, he holds an unshakable presence. He is safe, reliable, and grounded, but with that comes a resistance to change. His thoughts are tightly held and often shaped by outside reference points, and he needs to be pushed to express his truth. And his unwavering focus, while admirable, can also become a rigidity that shuts down openness. When he's fixed, I am fluid, I pivot, I multitask, I see and feel layers of complexity all at once. He fixates on a singular thread of a story and holds on making it his gospel, while I throw in multiple perspectives and possibilities, which overwhelms him. He digs in his heels, and I push harder. Conflict rises until it breaks. But then something beautiful happens. We come back to our hearts, the heat dissolves, and in that soft, vulnerable space we meet, not as opponents, but as people. What I've come to see is this. His fixation is often a form of protection, and my force is often a bid to be seen. And now I'm learning to hold space and keep my heart open long enough for him to arrive in his own time, and he's learning to listen without projecting or assuming. We are not perfect, but we are step by step learning a new dance. So I've shared this story in my previous blog. So why am I sharing it again? Because the exact relationship that I'm having with him is the exact internal relationship that I'm having with myself, with my right and left side of myself. So by reading that again, it lands for me on another level, and I start to see the conflict within myself. And I can relate that back to myself. How my right side is immovable and focused on moving in a certain direction and a belief where it wants to go. Whereas my left side is doing the dance just to be heard and just to be validated and just to be felt. So it's important to remember that our dominant leg has served us for a reason. Changing its lead even slightly can bring subtle but profound shifts in how we feel supported, safe, and able to perform or express ourselves. So for me, it's coming from a place of strength and confidence. It's something I've done for a very long time. So if I change it, my reality changes, and the relationships and people around me may not respond to me the way that they have in the past, because it's a well-worn path, the way that I've shown up in the world. So this change may take time. When we try to shift from one extreme to the other, we often fall into the seesaw effect, swinging too far, then overcorrecting. And while this can work, it can also throw us off kilter. Instead, try making small adjustments or changes just big enough that you can feel their impact. So try this. Make a change. First, gather the awareness. Feel into your feet, how you walk, stand, experience your feet, your toes, your ball of your foot and your heels, and even your solar plexus and your sole of your foot. And then make a change for a whole day. Maybe change the way you move, the way you feel, the way you're doing things. And then walk or stand with awareness and notice how that makes you feel. Then go to sleep and watch what rises the next morning, because it's through sleep, the rest and digest cycle, that true change begins to land. Daylight invokes the action and the shift in muscular memory, and then night rewires the system as it's resting. And from this rewiring, we start to relate to life and ourselves in an entirely new way. Thank you for journeying with me through this deeply felt and grounded reflection. If this episode sparked insight or even emotion, allow it space, allow it to breathe, allow it to come to the surface. Be with it, hold it, be in the container of it, and let it rise in its own time. Our feet carry us through life, but they also carry the stories we've lived and the truths we've hidden, and the soul's desire to come home. To explore this work more deeply or join the psychosomatic therapy and emotional anatomy training, you can visit psychosomaticsandemotionalanatomy.com or my personal website, biancamoeschinger.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can always buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com, Bianca_Moeschinger. May your next step be one of awareness, balance, and soul, and always may your body guide you home. Bye for now.